You're listening to Spreaker Web Radio.
It's showtime, and you're listening to Florida Real Estate Radio, where you'll hear about what's relevant and where to find opportunities and solutions in Florida real estate. Right now, live in studio, here's your host, Brian Heckman.
All right, well, thanks so much for joining us today. So good to have you here. We got an awesome show lined up here, and so what it's going to be a lot of fun today is hearing some interesting perspective. Brought in another real estate agent today, special guest today, Ginny Zukowski, who's a veteran real estate agent with Future Home Realty. And Ginny's going to share with you a couple of things about this dramatic change and this huge shift we've seen in the marketplace here for both buyers and sellers, and get into a little bit on the whole inventory situation that we've got in the local market. And then also kind of talk through a little bit about what we call buyers with no options, and great perspective. So Ginny, welcome to the show. Why don't you start?
Thanks for having me.
You bet, absolutely. So glad we can mash our schedules to make it work out, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Why don't we start by briefly sharing when and how you got into real estate, and then why you're still a real estate agent today, and why customers, why clients do business with you versus somebody else.
Okay, hey. Hi, nice to be here today. I've been in real estate for the last 7 years, and I went into real estate and moved here from the Northeast, and it just seemed to me like it would be a very fitting thing for my personality. I always kind of enjoyed the aspect of real estate and helping people find it, and so I found myself doing that. And of course, when I went into it, I thought I was getting into a market that was, something that was going to be, this is something to do. Well, then we had the impact of the market changing, of course. So 2007, 2008, we saw the market slide. So being an agent, you had to work very fiercely and very hard to be an agent in this market. So the fact that I'm still standing here 7 years later, still working.
That says something very loud.
Yes, it says something very loud and clear. So I'm noticing that coming in and watching the dramatic changes. So the inventory is changing. There's less of it. And the market is starting to really increase. And I see these increases changing in a dramatic way.
So one quick question here. Very important. So where in the Northeast are you from? Come on, that's important.
Oh, I'm from Danbury, Connecticut. So, yeah.
Got it. All
West
right,
Coast
perfect.
girl. Yeah.
So let's get into kind of why you're here and why we really wanted to bring you in today. The current market. So what you kind of mentioned on this a little bit, but what's going on in the current market? What's changed that's made things kind of the way it is now? And then if you can speak on kind of the same topic, what's going on with the current inventory that you're seeing out there?
Yeah, the difference is from having thousands and thousands of homes to choose from to now we're getting to a slight few. So you may be on a zip code and have less than 18 homes to look at that people want. And so where you're getting into a situation where there's multiple bidding on these houses.
Question. So you say like 18 homes. So yeah. How would that have been any different? Like, what's the numbers different?
There were 220 last year. Let's
Gotcha.
say for the same time,
wow.
a year. Yeah, it's dramatic. It's a dramatic change. And that's exactly when I came here in 2004, there were maybe 43 homes to choose from in the entire zip code. We are seeing those changes. Now, especially at the price point people are looking at. We've also had a big surplus of investors buying a tremendous amount of the inventory here in the whole Tampa Bay region, where they're buying, and they are made a multiple bidding situation. A lot of cash buyers coming in and buying. So when you have clients that are looking to buy, and I'm in a certain price points, so we'll say clients that I have between that 150 and 200, there's very limited houses. And so it's instantaneous. There's not a lot of time to hem and haw about it. You really have to jump in, and you have to jump in with a strong offer. Closing costs. I used to be able to get closing costs for my clients all the time. I would be able to negotiate a lot more with my clients. That time's gone. It's not list price. It's above list price. And so that's a dramatic change, which would be something that was replica in 2004, 2005,
right, exactly.
2006. So when you're, I have a client, young lady, she 2.5 years looking for a house. And she 8 houses, 8 contracts we wrote together. 8.
Wow.
So
and how over how long? What kind of time period?
August.
Wow.
Okay, so I wrote 8 contracts. She got beat out of every one. I begged. I literally was at the point where saying this woman deserves to have a house.
Right.
And we went above list. We took closing costs right off the table. As is, no conditions. And that's what you have to do. You have to be extremely aggressive, and you have to really go for it. So it's a change, because people still think, you see a short sale or an aggressed house, and they think, it's $260. I'm going to offer $230 for it. No.
So two things then. So from the buyer's perspective, a buyer needs to be ready to totally trust you and what you're saying and what prices and what terms to ask for and negotiate, and they're not so in the driver's seat. Makes sense. But then on the selling side, I mean, that means something totally different. That means people that are teetering. I was just with somebody this morning that was thinking about putting their house in the market, but wasn't quite sure they wanted to buy before they sold their house. And I don't think they get that you could sell your house very fast if it's priced well.
If you price it correctly, you will sell it in a day, a week. And I think the numbers are going up. That's the other thing. So from July of this past year, 2012, to now, I've done comps for properties that I have seen them come up 35, 40,000 for the same house.
Since when? Since August?
In the last 6 months.
Wow.
So I did a listing presentation in October, and I said to the client that house would be around the 260 to 270 on the high. I just listed it last week at 289 and had it contracted.
Well, she's probably really happy that she waited then, huh?
I think she's very happy with me. I think she's very happy with me. It met her expectations and then some. I think if you have the right house in the right area, you will sell it really well. And again, we're not looking at 2005 prices. So, your house that is now worth $300 is not going to be worth $550. But what's happening is, because of the limited amount of inventory we have, we're seeing a surge. People are really moving out to get what they can get their hands on.
And do you think that's a little cause for caution at all in the market? I mean, it's almost like this like mini bubble kind of thing. Because I hear the same thing with somebody. I was telling you when you came in here this morning, there's a guy last night I spoke with. It's the same kind of thing. It's this eerie, man, stuff's going up so fast, but I think it's just there's nothing else to buy.
There's nothing else to buy, but with interest rates being what they are, right, you're kind of a fool for not taking the opportunity to buy something. And getting to the point with your buyers, and this is really important for you, they really need to be set up with someone like yourself. Make sure they're ready and really be equipped to be able to jump in, because if you really think you're going home shopping now, you have to be ready, and you have to be ready with your lender. You got to have all your ducks in a row and be ready to do it, because
right,
there's no hesitation, especially if you're trying to not get a short sale house. If you're looking for a non-problem home, you got to jump, and it's kind of scary. It's great on the listing side of it. When the buyer side, now we're very harried. As a realtor, you want your client to get it. You're working hard to get it, and so you're trying to be that offer. So there's no more games anymore. You got to really go for it.
Yeah, and so that's the biggest thing about being prepared. We always talk to people about that keyword, the big C word everyone hates, compromise, and that
yes,
it really, even on the listing side, you might not get the perfect house, the perfect location, the perfect floor plan, the perfect price, and be able to close in the perfect time frame to make everything work for your schedule and all that, and time the market such that, for example, you hit that as a buyer, you buy at the lower end of what you just talked about with that story with your customer, and you time the markets perfectly for interest rates. So I always tell people, this isn't like it was the last 3 years to where there were no buyers out there and you couldn't get financing. Now it's a matter of there's no houses. So when you find a house, be flexible. We're going to work our butts off on you, on your side on the real estate side, on our side on the mortgage side. We're going to bust our butts to make it all work. But we can't time. If you have a 30-day closing, we don't have time to wait for the world's greatest interest rates to arrive again. So you might have to lock in at a 3.5 or a 3.625. Boo hoo hoo,
Which
right?
are phenomenal rates, by the way. I've had several homes, and 5.5 was considered a good rate when I did my mortgage in 2004. So this is kind of crazy. People hemming and hawing under 4%. It's just madness. You can never get money. You're getting your money for nothing.
Right.
So I can't even understand the hesitation. The point is, you got to be ready.
Right.
You got to be ready. You got to believe what your realtor's saying.
Right.
But we all trying to get the finished product, which is what you want and what everyone wants, which is to get into your new home. And so, you can't think we're not telling you the truth. We have no reason to lie. We want to get you where you want to be. So I think believe what your realtor is telling you. We want the best outcome.
Which comes down to the whole idea of doing business with anybody. Know, like, and trust them, whether it be, and we tell people that right out of the gate, there's going to be a lot of stuff. There's going to be a curveball in every transaction. It just seems like that's just the way it is, regardless of what property you buy, who you are, how great your credit is, how much you're putting down. There's a curveball somewhere, and there needs to be a significant level of trust with the real estate and the buyer and the mortgage professional and the buyer, hands down.
Communication.
Huge.
I will say that's what I'm most looking forward to working together, because that's important to me, is having a relationship where you're working and it's all clear, it's very transparent, because these things, there will be problems,
right.
There will things that will go awry, you will probably be hating it by that time you're sitting at the closing table, but once it's done, it's done. But yeah,
right.
Especially if you pick difficult property.
And it's really funny, we tell people in the yeah, exactly. We tell people in the process that we go through the whole thing, hey, and there might be some curveballs, just this stuff we talked about. And right. I said, you know what? And you're sitting there thinking, wow, I don't know if I should do this. And we say, hey, you know what? And 9 out of 10 times we sit at the closing table and none of that stuff happened. There was no issues with inspection. There, all this crazy stuff you read about in the newspapers. But if you're that 1 of 10, you just should be alerted on the front end of it that, hey, these things could happen. And if they do, we are going to hold your hand through the process. And we always say we're the quarterback on the money side, on the mortgage side. And your agent is the quarterback on anything related to the house. So you got two people working in your favor for it, that this is what we do all day long. So great conversation to be had.
Yeah, enjoying myself very much. Thank you.
So what would you say, you mentioned some stuff with like buyers without any options.
Yeah.
And so why don't you get into that? And I think you had a kind of a situation on that. Maybe just we touch on that kind of briefly, what you mean by that with the current market.
Well, the example would be the young lady putting 8 contracts house and not being able to get anything. So because there is such a limited amount of inventory right now, you have buyers that they want to FHA, because I do a lot of FHA clients, and so they have the parameters which they could meet, and now it's trying to find the home that could fit the parameters. And so because we are limited in inventory, these buyers don't have options. So they may be forced to rent or come down with more money, because the cash buyers and the conventional purchasers, they have more aspect to get that deal. So it's getting a little trickier for certain buyers. I think cash is very helpful in a lot of these transactions. Right. It depends on the property too, because you get into some of these properties with waterfront and older properties, you have to put new roofs on them, right? Anything over 15 years,
yep.
So basically
insurance
is
issues,
going to dictate you have
right.
to have a new roof. So the seller's got to be cooperative on that as well. So yeah, it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky on the buyer side now. Again, the more ready they are, and the more open they are. If they pin themselves, say, hey, I only want to be in zip code 33626 here, the Carrollwood area, you're going to be very pigeonholed to the amount of houses you'll have to look. If you're able to open that circle up, of course, Brandon or Riverview, but people want to live in certain areas. They tend to like to live and work in the areas they want to be, and that you might have to open that up too in order to make it happen.
Right.
So
what's really interesting about you sharing, and I know you kind of have this kind of in your DNA and your spirit is this giving spirit. No, seriously,
Oh, thank you.
Is knowing that you do a good bit of listings and work with a lot of sellers as well. And I think for those customers, it is so crucial. I think it's just amazingly a huge value for them to have an agent like yourself that really understands the mindset and the perspective and the actions of buyers out there. So not only, are you working with buyers, But then as you go work with sellers, who I know you work with a lot of sellers,
Yes.
And you list their property, it's so crucial that they've got you that understands the mindset of the buyers, because that's really what they're hiring you for, is not to go, hey, I've sold all these houses, but like, how do we get the most amount of potential buyers in front of my house as fast as possible so I can get rid of this property for as fast as possible for as high of amount of money?
And that gets back to pricing it correctly too. And it's still really important to do that. But it's a much better situation to have 3 different people trying to buy your house, or 4 different people buying your house.
Right.
And doing that in a shorter time than dragging it out. So you take that house, that I listed at $289, sweet spot, under $300, 4-bedroom, lake, pool, your sweet spot. So that's a sweet spot in the market. When if you took that same house and you put it at $325, well, you have a different pool of buyers. So it's also knowing the pool of buyers that you have for the location in the area. That is really important.
Right.
So that gets down to the price too.
Awesome. Well, I hope that you have got a huge platform to kind of share this stuff out with the people that you're meeting with, because it is. We meet with a lot of agents, talk with a lot of agents, and the spirit of the agents in the community here is an awesome one. It really is. I know in different markets it's not quite as giving and professional as it is here, but you do a great job at really being able to communicate and kind of taking the confusion out of the marketplace with people. So it's been awesome having you in here.
Thank you.
And a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you.
So we'll seriously have to do this again sometime soon.
I would love to.
That'd be great. Well, we're out of time for today, but thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it, Ginny. And if people need to get in touch with you, what's the best place for them to reach you, cell phone, email?
They could reach me at Ginny at gotorealty.net, my website, or my cell phone, which is 813-997-3290. And I'm Googleable. So there's not many Zukowskis out there. So
that's
it's pretty
right.
Easy to find.
And that's Ginny, Ginny.
Ginny with a G, yeah.
Perfect. Well, we want to also thank so much for our listeners for tuning in today and listening to Florida Real Estate Radio. And it's right here where you hear about what's relevant and where to find opportunities and solutions in Florida Real Estate Radio right now. So I'm your host, Brian Heckman. Remember that we're all in this together, so let's grow together. Have an awesome day.